Will home prices in Vermont hold steady as we move throughout 2025? That's a question that many buyers and sellers are asking themselves right now as the market slows throughout the state. More sellers this year are reducing their list price and are seeing fewer buyers walk through their doors than they expected. And as a result, more properties are sitting on the market for longer. Inventory is starting to rise, and it's logical to assume that this will result in home prices dropping throughout the state. But is this a false prophecy, or do these feelings hold some weight? In this video, we are going to take a look at the most recent housing market stats, discuss some subjective situations the buyers and sellers that I represent have recently gone through, and look back at past data to see how the current market compares to years past. By the end of this video, you will be able to decide for yourself where the Vermont housing market is, if we are going to see home prices drop at some point in 2025, and use that data to give yourself an advantage, whether you're a home buyer or a home seller out there. Before we get into it, my name is Liam O'Reilly. I'm a realtor in Vermont with Jerry Riley Real Estate. I work with home buyers and sellers every single day. I'm really in the trenches with this. So if you are interested in buying or selling a home here in Vermont, reach out to me directly. I would be happy to help you any way that I can. Okay, let's jump over and take a look at what the data is telling us. In this video, we are going to take a look at a few different data sets. What we're looking at right now is the median sales price for single family homes across the state of Vermont. The reason why I single out single family homes when we're looking at the statewide data is that condos tend to give a little bit of a different story with ski towns and secondary homes. I don't think they give an accurate representation to the primary home sale market here in Vermont. So we're just going to take a look at single family homes across the state. And as you can see, home prices are remaining steady. We see here that they increased slightly from last year, increased from the prior period, but overall we have this steady trend. Maybe we'll get back to the peak that we saw in July of 2024, or maybe they'll remain around this 416 mark. But regardless, we should fluctuate between about $450,000 and $400,000 in the median sales price, and average about $425,000 by the end of the year. Now, when we take a look at what's going on with the overall volume, we'll see that across the state, inventory has actually dropped month over month. So there's fewer homes on the market in March than there were in February. Now, I do expect that number to increase as we move into the spring market here, but we can see it's up significantly from last year, about 1,050 homes on the market across the state, up from under 900 homes last year, about a 200 home increase. Now you can see we're really low compared to historical levels. We're about a quarter of the inventory that we had before the pandemic, and we're going to take a look at how the market behaved during those previous cycles to give you some sort of representation of where we are and what home prices will do moving throughout 2025 and even into the future. So active inventory is low here, but increasing, which is great. Month supply of inventory, we still sit at what's considered a seller's market. A balanced market would be anywhere between 4 and 6 months supply. This is the ratio of homes for sale compared to homes that are going under contract, which is the best representation we have of buyers to sellers out there. So 3 months supply of inventory. What that's telling us is, with the current amount of homes on the market, with those 1,000 homes on the market, it would take 3 months based on the current rate of sales to sell all those homes, to get through all that inventory. We see here back in 2019, let's just take a look at March of 2019, we are at 8.5 months supply across the state. So a much slower pace of market back in 2019 compared to what we're seeing today across the entire state. And we're going to dive into Chittenden County stats as well a little bit later on in this video. When we take a look at new listings here, we see that new listings are up 37% from the prior period and 16% from last year. So more homes are hitting the market, more inventory is building on the market. Now, despite that, days on market is very low. We see median days on market sits at just 11, meaning that most properties are still going under contract quickly. Now, what I was talking about at the beginning of this video, we are seeing more homes sit on the market compared to last year. Just because you list your property, it does not mean it's going to sell in this 11-day time frame. Some homes are taking weeks or even months to sell right now because the market is a little bit slower. Now, that's something that I'm seeing subjectively. It's not something that we're seeing reflected in this data, but just know if you're a seller out there, don't expect your home necessarily to sell within 11 days. It might take some time for the right buyer to come around and purchase your property. Now, let's take a look at pending sales right now. This is a good representation of the buyers out there, how many buyers are submitting offers and getting homes under contract. 444 homes, which is about half of what the active inventory is. Now, we're going to come back to those stats a little bit later on in this video when we take a look at historical data, but overall, a very healthy amount of pending sales for the number of homes, for the active inventory that we have on the market. Taking a look at Chittenden County data now, we are right about at the all-time high for monthly median sales price. Again, I don't put much weight into the monthly numbers. What really matters is what happens over the entire year, because we don't have a lot of volume here in Vermont. These numbers can fluctuate drastically depending on the month, and it's a little bit random. So that's why we have these large peaks and valleys in this graph. There just aren't enough sales to keep these numbers extremely consistent. So overall, what I'm seeing is median sales price is remaining steady, kind of fluctuating between that 460 and 540 number. Overall, it's not really moving a whole lot in either direction, but it's certainly not dropping. Now, when we take a look at active inventory, Chittenden County is actually seeing more homes on the market, both compared to February 2025 and compared to last year. So almost 2 homes on the market as of the end of March. And we see here that's up from about 122 homes last year. So more homes hitting the market, more listings hitting the market as well. When we take a look at new listings here, new listings are up 41% from the previous month, and they're up about 20% compared to last year. So more sellers are listing their properties, more homes are sitting on the market here in Chittenden County. Now, despite that, days on market remains low. Days on market in Chittenden County sits at 5 days. Now, that doesn't mean that every property is selling within 5 days. There are plenty listings out there right now that are sitting for longer than 5 days, that are sitting for weeks or months, and sellers who are willing to accept an offer under list price. There are many homes right now going under contract that my buyers are seeing, that my sellers are seeing as well, that are going for under list price. So just because the median days on market is low, it shows that overall the housing market is hot, right? There are still multiple offers taking place out there in the housing market, but it's not every single home, despite this low days on market number that we're seeing in the data. Now, scrolling down here, we're going to take a look at the month supply of inventory in Chittenden County. We see it's even lower than the rest of the state, but it is climbing. It's up about 60% compared to last year, meaning that there must be fewer pending sales. When we take a look at the pending sales here, we see it's down about 3% compared to last year. Again, the month supply of inventory is a ratio between the active inventory and the pending sales. So we see an increase in the active inventory. We see a decrease in the pending sales. That results in the median days on, that results in the month supply of inventory increasing in Chittenden County. So things are a little bit slower right now, which is why many people are thinking that home prices may drop moving into the future. But when we take a look at the historical data, we really can see what to expect from the median sales price. So this is a chart of the median sales price of primary homes throughout the state of Vermont. So not just Chittenden County, throughout the entire state. We see here, median sales price basically climbed and held steady for most of this chart. The median sales price in Vermont basically remained the same, held steady, or increased. Now, back in 2009, we did see a decrease of about 5% in the median sales price. Remember, 2009, this was the start of the great financial crisis. The whole country was in a recession. Housing across the country was crashing drastically. Now, some markets saw prices drop by 50 or 60%. Vermont saw home prices drop by about 5%. Now, when we take a look here, we also see a small drop in 2014. The median sales price dropped about 4% in 2014. And when we take a look at 2015, and the reason why I'm focusing on 2015 is because these charts only go back to 2015. Now, how does that data compare to the data that we're seeing today in the Vermont housing market. If we take a look at 2015, we see the median sales price increased about a modest 3% year over year in 2015. And when we take a look at the active inventory back in 2015, we see that it fluctuated between about 8,200 homes on the market and 6,600 homes on the market. Now, at the same time, the pending sales in Vermont at that time, back in 2015, it fluctuated between about 600 homes per month to about 300 homes that were going under contract per month. So between 600 and 400 properties were going under contract at that time, which is about 10% of the overall homes on the market. So right now, we see here 400 properties went under contract in March of 2025, and that's with only 1,000 homes on the market. So despite the drastic inventory differences that we had in 2015, where 8 to 10% of the properties on the market were going under contract in any given month, here in 2025, we have about 50% of all properties on the market are going under contract that month. So a much higher ratio. And the reason why we focus on the ratio between homes going under contract and active inventory out there on the market is because that shows the relationship between supply and demand, right? When we take a look at the month supply of inventory here, we see in 2015, at the beginning of 2015, we were at about 23 months supply. The low point in 2015 was 12 months supply of inventory. So about a year. Basically, it would take about a year to work through the existing inventory on the market in the state of Vermont in 2015 based on the pace of sales. Right now, we are at 3. And so the ratio between home buyers and sellers right now is still very close, right? There's still enough people looking to buy homes here in Vermont to keep prices elevated. At least that's what I'm seeing based on this data. Again, you can make your own conclusions of what you think will happen to the local market here in Vermont, but we've seen a much slower market take place, like back in 2015, really before the pandemic. The market was much, much slower, but specifically 2015, because this is the slowest market data that we have to work off of. The housing market was much slower, and we still saw median sales prices increase year over year. Now, we don't have the data for 2014 or 2009 when we saw median sales price decrease year over year, but the point of this video and the point of these stats is to show that when the housing market was worse, when the housing market was much slower than it is today, even though the housing market is slowing in Vermont, median sales price still went up year over year throughout the state. Now, we can't guarantee, we can't predict the future. We don't know exactly what will happen throughout the rest of 2025. But if you're considering buying or selling a home and you think that maybe now is not the right time because the market's slowing, maybe home prices will fall further, or maybe you think, oh, I got to sell right now because home prices are going to fall throughout the state. If we take a look at the historic data and say, okay, the market is slowing, but how slow is it compared to the historic data? We see here that it's still a much hotter market than what it was in 2015, and home prices in that year still went up. Now, not every home sold, and it might have taken a lot longer to sell your home. When we take a look back at the percentage of list price received back in 2015, we see here that at its low point, it was about 93.5% of list price. So in other words, if somebody listed their home for $500,000, they were likely accepting an offer at $460,000 or so. So buyers were getting properties for under list price. And despite that, we did see the median sales price increase. So just like today, how buyers are able to get properties under contract for under list price if they've been sitting on the market for a little while, it doesn't mean that the bottom is falling out of the Vermont housing market. Now, I'll leave the links to this data in the description for you. You can go through it yourself or rewatch this video and make your own conclusions of where we are here in April of 2025 in the Vermont housing market. But those are my thoughts. I do not think we will see the bottom drop out. We didn't see it when the market was much slower. And so with a hotter market, I don't know how we will see home prices drop this year in 2025. So leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of this data and let me know what you think of my opinion. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? I would love to hear from you. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.